YouTube page to make sure we are on the air. This is taking too long.
Not looking promising.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to get to the page. I think we're fine.
Oh,
Too long. We're good.
okay, cool. Here we go. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed.
Capacity.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes the candles will light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Tonight we're going to do a lively pod radio show, YouTube/download thing, and we're going to talk about stuff. So hang on, everyone. This is going to get really interesting. Just like the unfortunate, I don't know, depending on your point of view, the necessary, maybe, suicide of Epstein.
Show name, The Necessary Suicide.
Yes, okay, let me write that down. So, yeah, I woke up this morning with a text from a friend of mine who I don't know why. I spent like an hour in a parking lot talking about it's like yeah, there's so much crap going on in the news. I think all these shootings are taking a lot of attention away from what may be the biggest Ponzi scheme / sex ring in American history. And because we were talking, like I said, this led to an hour-long conversation, and I was saying, well, this guy, everyone knows all the Hollywood people and the politicians and everything that are around this guy, but what's even more nefarious and insidious is the fact that he was probably running like a Bernie Madoff scam, but also he was arranging sex parties and stuff and then forcing people, holding that information over them so they would invest in his Ponzi scheme. So it's like this three-dimensional. I don't know if any of this is true, but I read it in like the New York Times. Like they're speculating like, well, this might be worse and more horrifying than even you could imagine. And I was talking about it's like, we really need to get some attention back on that, because that could have all kinds of ramifications. It's like when you're mixing three kinds of criminality into one thing, and then I get again, the same guy I was talking to, I get a text, just a picture of his face, and it's like from the New York Post. It's like, oh, he committed suicide in jail. And of course I go to all my wacko websites and they're all just overloaded with people writing in like, Hillary. Or the other wacko websites, Trump. It's like, who killed him?
Is there an obligatory thanks Obama in there?
Well, probably. I just couldn't go through it all. I was just inundated with conspiracies, and that's the usual, typical reaction I expect. Then I read, like, I guess what you'd consider credible news, and it's like, yeah, no one's answering any questions, and nobody's like, why wasn't he on suicide watch? And the people are like, yeah, we don't know. An investigation. And it's like, oh, are you fucking with everyone? Seriously, like,
Hey, Chipton fell to kill himself.
yeah, he hung himself, and he had a credible suicide
Even
attempt.
though, it wasn't 2 weeks ago, he was like, oh, he hurt himself in his jail cell. We don't know if it's a suicide attempt. Like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, we know exactly what happened here, but so it's weird when, like, you don't want to go full conspiracy, but then the people that are supposed to be like tamping this down are like, Yeah, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Things happen. It's a tough world, you know. It's death can come at any time. And so they promised there's going to be a Justice Department investigation, and coming from this organization, I'm sure that's going to be rock solid. So,
Or is
Yeah.
he being? Was he in a federal prison or like a state prison,
New York. I thought it was.
or like Rikers Island or something?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I don't know. I didn't go deep on this because almost everything I was reading was crazy. But then hours later, real supposed journalism comes out, which, I mean, to their credit, they're not making anything up, but they're interviewing the jail people, and they're just being oblique, like, but in a sarcastic way almost, or at least that's how it comes across to me. So I don't know. It's
like we have to give an answer, but we have to give the most cryptic non-answer we can.
Yeah, and kind of have like a sense of mirth behind it. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into it, but it just ties in nicely with one of the things we're going to talk about tonight.
It's like in a comedy when someone gets like caught cheating and like they have to like shrug their shoulders, like, "Oops, my dick fell inside her."
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what do we really want to say here? I don't know though. It's I don't have a lot to add. I don't have anything. Just like I said before, this is sounds like
We're adding our suspicion and entertainment to
yes.
possibly a horrible, or maybe we might not find out, a horrible man killing himself, and could have brought a lot of people down with him, but maybe not now.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe never.
Which
I mean,
is suspiciously convenient.
Yes. However, I don't think Hillary Clinton was holding him up by his neck like Darth Vader. At the New Hope. But I do think it's weird and convenient, and obvious. Obviously so, like so blatant. It's like maybe he really did kill himself. Nobody's this dumb, but maybe he didn't. I don't know.
It's kind of like that moment in Making a Murderer, where they find out like, oh, the blood sample has obviously been tampered with.
Yes.
Like, oh, they framed this guy. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And like, I remember like you explained it as like, oh, this would be like a bad episode of Law and Order, but it's real life.
Yeah. If the writers came up with this, they'd be like, oh, this piece of shit story. No one would do something this dumb. It's like, well, hold on there. Let's rewind a little bit. Yeah. But it just seemed it was startling to me almost when I turned my phone on. I thought it was a joke because it was literally the same guy I was talking to 10 hours before, and I get a message like he killed himself, and I immediately like go on my phone to the news, and it's like, oh shit, this is real. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, America. Alex Jones might have been right on this one. Third time Alex Jones has been right.
Wait, what are the first two?
There was Project Northwoods. He was the first guy that talked about that.
What's Project Northwoods?
Where they did all that kind of pseudo bio warfare in America, and then they had all those plans to take a passenger plane and take all the people off, but shoot it down and say Cuba did it so they can invade Cuba.
Oh. And
then the other thing was that fluoride in the water is actually bad for you if the water treatment people don't do it right, because in a greater percentage of beyond 1 part per 100 million or something, fluorine is poisonous. But they stay, and I mean, he was right, but
but isn't always the fluoride flack is that we're like it makes you docile and easily controlled, and it's like a mind control device for the government? Isn't
no,
that
it's the answer? But I mean, yeah.
No, that's usually the conspiracy thing about fluoride is like it's government control, making you docile and easily susceptible to suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, when I say Alex Jones was right about something, understand there was a whole lot of kabuki theater surrounding facts that wasn't right, but the core, the nucleus of that atom was correct. So, But we're talking a guy with a 30-year career, and this is like might be number 3, and maybe this is just the guy killed himself. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. But I mean,
a horrible man was contemplating all the horrible things he did and decided to kill himself rather than face judgment for them.
I mean, I'm not like it's like, oh, this guy deserved his day in court. They framed him up. No, I think he was a piece of shit. But I also think it's weird that serious news outlets were reporting that this might be, the first combination sex ring Ponzi schemes.
Billionaires don't kill themselves.
They also don't go to jail. So.
Yeah. Unless you're Martha Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you take a shitty investment advice and then you're held to account. But never mind, 2 years later, our entire economy was destroyed and nobody went to jail. Clean hands all around. I just wonder who Martha Stewart pissed off that happened.
I wonder if it's just one of those things like where she just actually admitted something rather than just like going full on, my lawyer will speak for me.
Yeah, that could be. There's probably a reason.
There's always like those things where it's like someone who is completely dishonest and doesn't want to own up to something, lawyers up, and then just gets away with it. And there's like people that like they know they did something bad, but they decided like when confronted with it, they'll be honest, and then they just get royally fucked for being honest.
And what did we learn, kid? Lie like a rug. Yeah, you're not gonna. They're just waiting for you to say the words, "Yeah, I did it," and then they don't want to hear. And you're not going to tell them give some speech, some compelling story where they're going to be like, "Yeah, he's ultimately a good guy. He told the truth. Maybe we should let him go." No, it's not how the system works. Because 99% of the people are pieces of shit, so they has to be a hard sell. But anyway, Jeffrey Epstein, we'll follow the developments. See how crazy this gets. See if this starts the Civil War.
Wait, what side? What are the sides?
I don't know. Anything anymore. Just people looking for an excuse. I'm going to try to find some of the quotes here. Oh, was Mr. Epstein on suicide watch previously? Yes. Was he on suicide watch last night? No. Is there a reason why? We don't know. Literally quote. I'm not like taking that out of context. Let's see what else was there. I don't know. It's just more of the same. It just seemed like a lot of like, oh, okay. We're either covering up or we're doing something.
I always find suicide watch also a weird term, because to me that immediately comes to mind. It's just someone watching someone kill themselves.
Yeah, it's just he's on suicide watch. Get the popcorn in the microwave. Putting their chairs up outside the cell and
Hey Bob, what's going on? He killed himself.
Make sure to get that around that tall stanchion. It's getting tight. Make that cinch. Yeah, you're just sitting there like just watching. Taking bets. Is he going to void himself?
Is he going to say, witness me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird thing. But I don't know. It's like that thing. My wife put it on Facebook, and then I forwarded it. It's like the fact that a billionaire who ran a pedophile extortion ring is dead, and people in both major political parties in this country may or may not have been involved, tells you everything you need to know about the state of politics in the country. It's like the fact that anyone was within a million miles of that guy when he was known for doing that, not, oh, it was all supposition or I never saw anything. He'd been put in jail for it once.
Oh, he was convicted of something?
Yeah, he got some sweetheart deal in Florida for doing similar stuff.
Huh.
Remember, he had the no-show probation for years, and it was one of the was it our current? Someone had to resign from the Trump administration because he was the U.S. attorney in Florida who made the deal.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember the names and faces because there's so much shit I can't follow it all. It's like I understand Watergate front to back because it was pretty much the story. It had a lot of tentacles, but the problem with the current administration is it's like it's a new story with new tentacles almost every day. And, okay, I give up. And I'm someone who likes complex, dense plots and lots of storylines. I can't even follow this shit anymore.
This is like this is like the starfish and the spider analogy, but like for idiots.
Yeah. Explain the starfish and spider.
So it's a book about the power of leaderless organizations. Essentially, like, if you cut the head off a spider, it dies and all its legs die. Well, a starfish, if you cut the head off a starfish, it becomes 2 starfish.
Yeah.
And so, like, when organizations and then, like, they in the book they compare it to, like, AA is like this, like a starfish. It's like there essentially are no defined rules and nobody owns anything of it. Any AA meeting can be whatever it wants, which is why a lot of it's like ends up being churchy stuff, but it doesn't have to be. That's not a requisite. It's like how people use it, but it's all over the place. And there's no central organization. So it's here, it's like a group of idiots. No one's leading it, but like they're all involved in this thing. But nobody knows what each other's doing, because if somebody knows something, then they're really fucked, and there's a conspiracy. So if they just keep the idiocy and the lack of communication, but try to attempt to do illegal things for their own benefit, and the alleged benefit of their benefactors, then everything's okay.
Yeah. Even if it fails and causes more damage, it's like some of the tentacles just randomly die, and then some of them just grow in new directions, or some of the tentacles become a tree.
Yeah, we're in the
It's like moronic cellular division.
it's in the what's the Southern Reach trilogy, the name of the zone.
Oh, Area X?
Yeah. It's the cell division of Area X. It just becomes random things.
Well, his new book that looks interesting comes out in October.
Who's that? I don't remember the author.
Jeff Vandermeer.
Okay. What's the plot of it?
It's called Dead Astronauts. I don't know. I put the cover on my Facebook. I've read some excerpts from it on his website or on his Facebook because he puts them up, but I can't really put it together. And it's...
Now, I've seen trailers for that Ad Astra movie. Are we supposed to know what the fuck's going on? Or is this supposed to be like some weird 2001 Space Odyssey shit going on?
I don't know, and I don't. Was that a comic book?
I thought you knew. I thought it was just like I thought it was like a Spanish like book or something like that. I thought it was something like that. Like it's a foreign language book, and then it's being converted into this movie. But I heard it. I don't know, because I thought I heard like it was always weird, but somehow it got this, large amount of money behind it. And watching the trailers like almost. Even though it was like, oh, he has to go find his father out on the outreaches because aliens, I think? I don't know. Like, nothing about that trailer. No 2 scenes that they put in sequence, like, makes a story to me. It's just a bunch of random images and people being sad.
Yeah, I don't remember this one. No, this is a wholly original concept.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah. James Gray is directing it.
Who's that?
Oh, what has he done? Let's see. Lost City of Z, which was...
Okay.
I watched that. It was kind of cool, but it was long. Yeah, this is going to be a... I'm going to see what kind of reviews this gets.
Oh, when's it coming out? I can't remember.
I don't know. They keep pushing the release date.
Okay. Yeah, because we're in the doldrums of August right now, so...
Well, it's going to have its premiere at the Venice Film Festival at the end of August. And so far, September 20th, 2019 is the release date. It's a Disney movie.
Huh.
Disney Pictures. under 20th Century Fox. So,
Yeah, I hear Disney like basically gutted almost all of Fox's film production except for what was it? Oh, I can't remember the one. There's only like 3 that are actually going in production, like the Avatar sequel. Like that's staying in production. But like I think they're gonna completely rework the X-Men franchise. Apparently they lost like $127 million.
a lot of money. Ad Astra was supposed to be out in January of this year.
Oh, okay.
Been pushed also.
So they're ready to throw it away, and they're like, no.
Yeah, the hand was putting it up on the shelf, and then somebody grabbed the hand at the last minute and said, "No, let's show a bunch of incoherent images with actors you know. Let's try to recoup some of our loss."
Let's have it fail in October.
Well, yeah, Disney's, because the Dark Phoenix was just this massive loss, and then their new Star Wars theme park revenues. Initially, they thought, "Oh, this is going to be cool," and then it fell off a cliff. It's just like the visitation rate has dropped 28 to 35%, depending on who you listen to, but I don't. And a lot of people, a lot of the
I don't know,
guys,
for something new, I think that's expected.
well, a lot of the people on who hated, that we hate the Star Wars franchise now, or we hate the last movie guys, were like, "Yeah, this is proof it failed." And really, somebody else put up what it costs to go there, and it's like, "No, this is why it's failing. It's because it's too expensive, and people don't have $4,000 to take a family of 3 on a 2-day vacation." So, I don't know if it was that expensive, but it's pretty damn expensive. But I could just be full of shit.
I mean, I would expect something like that to be like have a initial, be really busy initially, and then like level out, and it's whether
they're not happy about it. No.
Okay. So
said they are unhappy. But it's not like, yeah, this is the business model. No, there's something going on. But it's so expensive. I know some people that went to Disney like a year ago. Now they went for like 8 days. It was literally $8,000, and it was him and his wife and his 3 kids. And it's like that's an economy car. That is something you could drive for 10 years. Well, half of something you could drive for 10 years. I mean, Grayson went once. Yeah, and he liked the Hall of Presidents, and I didn't go. I mean, he was with his grandma, and yeah, he liked the Hall of Presidents, and that was it. He was really like, yeah, I don't like all that made up shit. It's like, I know, I love your imagination. I'm glad you're my kid. Great imagination.
But I've been kind of. There's been a lot. I like a lot of sci-fi movies, and they seem to have been. There's a lot coming out recently, and it seems like a lot of it's been failing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A
lot of it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of things that I had hope for that. Okay.
But like Netflix just came out with I think it's called Another Life, and it's like this sci-fi. We discovered alien or some weird alien thing comes to Earth, and then we got to go out and find it, and we don't know whether the alien life is going to be harmful or peaceful to us. And it has Katie Sackhoff in it, and I watched like the first episode, and like it seemed all right, but I had no idea where it's going, and I just dropped off because like there's already 2 other Netflix shows I'm behind on. Like Glow just came out this week, and season 3, and then got Orange Is the New Black was last week, and I've watched 2 episodes of Glow and 10 minutes of the recent season of Orange Is the New Black.
Oh, okay.
Just behind on everything, but I was watching Kill La Kill, so I watched all of that.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Did you watch an episode of that?
I grazed an episode, and I was like, huh? I like it. I can appreciate it for its random weirdness, but
that first episode is actually like fairly dark to how it becomes a lot more goofy after that, and then it gets real dark again. Essentially it's built on, so I guess like how in English it is also the way in Japanese that the word fashion sounds a lot like fascist.
Okay.
And so this whole series is like a paradigm on fascism, but through the idea of like actual fashion, like clothing and power, and like there's all these like people fight with swords. Like she fights with a sword that's like half a scissor. There's people with sewing machine guns that shoot needle that tranquilizes people.
Okay, is that that's the weird motif? I thought it was like a weird steampunk motif at first. Why does their sword look like that?
Yeah, it's like half a scissor because their dad made these scissors that were really powerful that could kill these really powerful uniforms, and but like somebody killed her father with the sword and took one half, and then she has this other half of the scissors. That's not really a sword; it's like half a scissor, and that's really like the only death in the series, which is weird because it is like really violent. But the only thing that happens is like if people have these special uniforms on and they fight each other, like at the end of the fight, if they basically annihilate the other person, like they don't die, their clothes just explode and they become naked.
Yeah. What was that called? Natural election cycle or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, they had some name for like we're gonna fight and we're gonna eliminate, and it was sort of like set it up in the first episode, and I didn't really follow up with it. I was kind of weirded out.
Yeah, I only came back to this recently because I heard people talking about it. Because I just immediately dismissed it as like, oh, this is just like basically like fetish, like pornography for people. Because like it is like supposed to be a 17-year-old girl who gets this uniform that makes her really powerful. But like when it looks like a sailor uniform at first, but when it becomes like the power uniform, she basically looks like a stripper with like an elaborate G-string.
Yeah.
And it's like really fucking weird.
I thought it reminded me of the uniform or the outfit the lady wore in The Fifth Element, kind of.
Yeah.
Like what is this?
It's also kind of a spoof on Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I'm not someone. I read some things about it, and it cross-referencing that. I vaguely know what Sailor Moon is. I'm not a big anime guy, so.
I mean, I know what it is, but like I've only seen like it's just like a stupid like girls save the universe. It's basically like Power Rangers, but with girls in sailor outfits, but they have power of the planets.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it's basically like Power Rangers, so it's very like slight and funny. It's not really meant to be taken seriously. But here, like everything's seriously. Like it's basically like, what if Hitler had a sewing machine?
Yeah.
And there's the whole weird thing, like they have like schools that fight each other. Like this school that they're at is like taking over other schools and like absorbing it into this school. But there doesn't really seem to be any notion of like there's other governments or stuff like that. Like that's just going on the wayside. But meanwhile, like, oh, I guess this school annihilated this other school in this war, but they're just kids, so who gives a shit?
Yeah.
So that's like very like that.
Battle Royale.
But the animation's really like it's from Studio Trigger, which I really don't know much of their stuff. Because it reminded me, there's another anime called Fooly Cooly. That's not how you think it's spelled. It's not. It's just the name of the title is you just type FLCL.
Okay.
That's the name of that's the title of it. But you say Fooly Cooly, and that's what it's actually how you're supposed to say it. I don't know. It's some weird Japanese thing. But that had like a lot of random animations where like it'd switch styles. It'd switch animation styles like almost 10 times in 8 seconds.
Okay.
There's like a kid who he'd have like a monster grow out his head, and then like this girl who's like from another planet would have to fight the monster with like a Yamaha guitar. It's fucking crazy. There's one episode where like they're getting a haircut and then it just turns into South Park for no reason. Like it's literally animated just like South Park. Like they just do all these different stylings.
Huh.
So there's a lot of like things in this show where like it's like here's something elaborately animated, like it's animated at 24 frames a second. Where usually things are animated at like 12 frames a second. So the more you animate, the more like kind of detailed or slow motion looks to it. And there's like little things where like they just take still images and just kind of like they don't even animate them. They just kind of like scroll them across and just have like somebody talk. And they're like, they'll be like, and like characters will be in full motion, other characters will be like 2 frames animation. Yeah, it's just really goofy. You know, like, it adds to it, and just like the crazy things, because she's trying to find the person who killed her father, and she ends up with this weird family who take her in while she's like attending the school, which is weird because she's trying to essentially kill the principal of the school while attending school.
Okay.
And the dad that at the home, he's a back alley doctor, and she says like, my dad's famous because he kills more patients than he saves. And the dad just kind of laughs it off. It's like, well, if they're dead, they can't sue you. Ha ha.
Ha ha ha. Yeah.
And like they keep like slipping in like, and then like she's like I think what's her name? It's like, fuck, I forget it. I'll have to look it up because she's like, yeah, that's not something to be proud of. And then like there's later on she's talking about how like her dad steals people's blood, and she's talking to like the disciplinarian of the school, and he's like, do you know what you're saying? She's like, don't worry about it. And like they just like keep hinting about how horrible this dad is, and he's just like an idiot. Like he doesn't. It's like, how's he a doctor? But he's a back alley doctor, so he's, you know, obviously an illegal doctor.
Right.
Who people have to go to. What else? I'm forgetting. There's like a bunch of. I don't. It was I was put off before. Like I told you, like, yeah, watch it with people around. They'll ask you what the fuck's going on, because it's definitely a show to be embarrassed by. If someone's like, now you have to explain it. And it's like, I don't know. I can't. There's no way I can explain this.
This is working, but I can't really like verbal or put it in words why it is working.
I mean, it's goofy, but and too sexually objectifying.
Yeah,
which I'm fine with it, but at some point I have to be like, oh, what do women think of this? And apparently, like, some women think it's like, it's fine, but like it's empowering in some way. Because actually, in the show, women are in power in most spots in the show. So that, but then also you got to show off their tits and ass. So.
Yeah. You can have power, but you're going to be sexualized. Sexual power.
Well, that becomes like a point later on where shit, I gotta look up her name because I'm gonna forget all the names. She is embarrassed when she turns into that like super uniform and basically looks like a stripper.
Yeah.
And then that's like, it's not helping her like become more powerful because the suit drinks her blood to power itself.
Okay. Parasitic power suit. Okay.
Yeah. And so the more they're like in sync, the less blood it needs to be as powerful. So essentially, because she was embarrassed being practically naked when she was fighting, it had to drink more blood. And then so she like overcomes her embarrassment so then she can be more effective.
Otherwise, this suit's going to bleed you out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that name? Ryuko. Yeah, that's her name. So it's Ryuko Matoi. So it depends on who's talking to her. They use whatever names because the principal always calls her Matoi.
Yeah, that was kind of confused. They were using different names.
But yeah, it's on Netflix right now. It has an English dub, so
yeah, that's the only reason I stuck with it for a whole episode. It's dubbed in English. At least I can look down at what I'm working on.
Yeah,
You'll hear it, but if I got to stare at it, chances are I'm not gonna. Because this all happens when I'm building models.
yeah. Yeah, there's one funny part where she's at the house and the mother's like, I heard you fought the principal today at school, but like you were practically naked. And she's like, yeah, pretty much. She's like, oh, are you an exhibitionist? She's like, oh God, no. And it's like, and then like the daughter character pops out. It's like, oh, she was a badass. I want to be an exhibitionist too.
Yeah, like that's the main point. Not you fighting with an adult who is the principal of your school. It's like, are you an exhibitionist? I don't think that's the main problem here.
And then like, oh man, I assume you're not gonna. I'm just gonna spoil this here because like I don't think you're gonna watch the rest of this. But like, uh, ultimately the story becomes so there's these things called life fibers which they put in these suits which makes them powerful, and that ends up being an alien life form that came to Earth and like basically enclosed humans in clothes and then advance their evolution so that they could be better. So they could basically eat people for energy and blow up the planet to spread more life fibers across the universe.
Makes sense.
So like clothes become the enemy towards the end of the series, and there's this secret organization that are like working in the shadows to try to stop this, and they're called Nudist Beach, like that's the name, and they don't like clothes because clothes are an imprisonment, and like they're aliens trying to eat you. So there's always a bunch of weird stuff where like they have like utility belts and stuff, but they're basically naked, but like, or sometimes they'll just have like a giant star like where where their butthole should be or their genitalia should be, and it's just like. And then like people are just kind of like weirded out and slowly backing away when someone does like a serious, like like this is the backstory of this clothing, and like they're sort of walking away from their schlong being in their face. And then there's because like the one principal character, you then meet her mother, who is basically like essentially through greed of power and through this life fiber stuff isn't human anymore. She just wants to like take over the earth with these life fiber alien things.
Okay.
And you first so she has this. The principal has like this special uniform on, but because she's less in sync with it, like every time she uses it, it like almost kills her. And then she's wearing this uniform when she meets her mom, and her mom like is like caressing the contours of her body. And then there's like a moment it's like, does she just feel up her daughter? That's fucked up. And then later on, she basically finger bangs her daughter to get her like back to health. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? And that's essentially like the only sex in the show. Like there's plenty of like partial nudity, well not even really nudity, but like covered up nudity or like stripper clothing, but like this is the only thing. It's like, oh, what the fuck, like they just put that in there for shock value, but like that really is like, oh, this is fucked up. Well, I mean, that's an easy way to make that character the most evil person in the show, because essentially like this principal character is supposed to be Hitler. It's like, well, what if somebody molested Hitler?
Bang you back to health.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Very Japanese.
But I say like the first like 8 episodes, they're pretty like, it's very funny and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then the back half is it's still funny and enjoyable, but it becomes like weird and more serious and and incestuous. It's only there's 3 scenes where basically she molests her daughter, which is not acceptable, but whatever.
It's their culture.
I mean, they don't like dive into it. It's just these moments where, like, when you come away, it's like, whoa, bump the brakes. What the fuck's going on here? And then, of course, they don't. They just move on like nothing happened. It's like, no, something happened.
This happens sometimes for no reason.
So yeah, that's Kill La Kill. It's KILLLA KILL.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means, other than it's like 2 kills.
Something that doesn't translate, probably. Or translates into that.
Well, law, that would be like a French thing, right?
Yes.
Which I don't even know what that means. Is that just "the" in French?
Lay or law, I forget what the difference is, but yeah, essentially.
We'll see what Google Translate does with Kill La Kill. Well, I'll just type in Kill La Kill. Latin. La Osideus? No, that's not right. Let's try to find French. Well, actually, I'm using English as the first. Oh, it detects that as English. Oh, okay, we'll start with French as the original language, and then we'll go to English. Yeah, it just says kill to kill.
Kill to kill. Oh, so okay.
No, I doubt it really means anything.
Nah.
Or I could just go to Wikipedia and they'll probably explain it. So yeah, the next anime I'm going to explore is called Banana Fish. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I hear it's really serious, so
Interesting name for a serious show.
yeah. I think there used to be a band called Banana Fish Zero. No,
Oh, okay.
it was just a stupid. I think they're like a punk band or something. But I remember I found when I had Sirius XM radio, I found them. I was like, oh, they're pretty good. And then I think I looked them up sometime a while ago. I was like, they're not as good as I remember. I just had
remember
that one song.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Then yeah, I watched a couple episodes of the third season of Glow. Seems all right, although I heard ahead of time that it's the poorest season so far. So I was like, oh, but I'm not letting that necessarily color anything because I still have 12 episodes to go.
Yeah. Mark Maron's still in that?
Yeah.
What movie is he going to be in coming up?
He's got a bunch.
Yeah, he's
in
gonna
a bunch of indie shit, but I don't know about big movies though.
Yeah, I just saw him in something, a trailer I was watching. It's like, oh, that's Mark Maron. But he's like some scientist.
Man,
He's not a character, but
why not? He's in some D&D movie recently. He's also in some other relationship TV show. He's in the second season of it. Well, here's something called Stardust. Oh, that's filming.
oh, okay.
I don't know what that is. What is that? Stardust, the chronicle of a young David Bowie's first visit to the U.S. in 1971. Okay.
That'll be weird. David, weird, sexy Englishman.
Oh, he's in Joker. The new Joker.
Yeah, that
movie.
was it. I saw him in Joker. I think he was his shrink or something.
Okay. And then he's in Wonderland. Oh, it's a Peter Berg movie. What's this? An ex-felon named Spencer returns to Boston's criminal underworld to unravel a twisted murder conspiracy. It's got Mark Wahlberg in it.
Oh, okay. It's a Mark Wahlberg joint.
Well, it's weird. It has a picture of him in a police uniform, but here it says an ex-felon. So I don't know if he's impersonating a police officer or what.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Glow. Yeah, Easy. That's the TV series that he's in. The other one he's in, and then Sort of Trust. That's the D&D movie he's in.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, no, this never mind. That has nothing to do with D&D. It's just dorks.
Well, just
Cynthia and Maria show up to collect Cynthia's inheritance from her deceased grandfather, but the only item she receives is an antique sword that is believed by her grandfather to be proof that the South won the Civil War.
sounds interesting. I got the paint drying on a unique model this week.
Oh, do you have a new model?
It's one that's been in the bullpen.
Oh, okay.
This is the first one. Well, no, actually, this one I did get, but it's pushed a couple back. This is actually one that's featured in a magazine, so I have some guide there. It's a German field artillery. It's a German artillery mobile artillery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the mortar cannon thing.
Yeah, no, that one's done.
Oh, okay.
This is the Hummel. That means bumblebee in German. I found out, and it's what is it called? Panzerfeldhaubitz Gutswagen, which means Panzer Field Howitzer Gun Trailer. So it's basically just a howitzer on tank tracks.
Okay.
Built on top of a Panzer frame. And this was the main. It's interesting about this is this was actually most of Germany's artillery fighting the Russians because it was always a moving battle. So they didn't have a lot of fixed artillery, but they used these to great effect because they usually traveled in groups of 6 with a 7th as an ammunition carrier. And it had 2-piece ammunition. It had the actual shell, which it could be either smoke or, anti-tank or anti-personnel, and then it had the charge that went in behind it.
Yeah.
So you could actually carry a lot more ammo with these and they weren't just dedicated to like one kind of shell. You could sort of pick what you wanted. Had a great big radio set in it, and then they were used to great effect at the Battle of Kursk because they would just rain them up on a hill, send the panzers out, and then they'd come back and lure the Russians in and just shell the shit out of their tanks. There's actually a lot of these around, and the Egyptians used them in one of the Arab-Israeli wars. I forget which one. I mean, that was the last time it was used, but
Yeah.
like that's a pretty old piece of equipment, but still effective. And this model it's a Tamiya kit, so I know it's going to be good just by default. Like I said, it's on a magazine, so I have some guidance there. And this one came with a metal barrel, which is really cool because it's actually rifled inside, and you can clearly see it. And you don't have to clean up a big seam off of a cylinder, which is actually a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Tank barrels are terrible to work with if they're 2-piecers. And being this was a 15 centimeter, so what is that? Yeah, it's a pretty big bore. And it has little guys in it, and it shows all the shells and their 2-piece components, and you can paint them, and you can have guys load stuff.
Do you think they like molded that, or did they you think they lathed it or something?
They probably just spun this off a lathe
Okay.
because it's I think it's aluminum,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
pretty lightweight. But yeah, it was only $10. It was only $10 extra. Because some of those metal barrels for tanks, like when they started doing that, like I don't know when they started doing that, like 10 or 15 years ago. Oh, you'd lay out $35, $40 for one. But it depends on. See, like that's the thing. Like you can get really good model kits, but they're not like this one was not horribly expensive. I think this was $60 for everything, which is not horribly expensive because it's a good kit, but it's mass produced. It's Tamiya, so they're going to make 100,000 of these or something. It's when you get into those obscure subjects and it's like, oh, we have hop-up kits for them, and the hop-up kits are like $300 because they're not like this is someone in their garage basically punching this out.
Wait, what's a hop-up kit?
Oh, and you can get all the photo etch and all the metal details and
Oh, okay.
yeah, I know guys that are $500 deep in like Russian Cold War mobile radar systems because it's just this giant radar dish on top of a tracked vehicle and it's all photo etch. So when you paint it up and stuff, it's like, oh, that's going to look absolutely real because it, the radar dome or the radar dishes had really thin lattice in them. It's very hard to simulate with styrene.
Yeah.
Because it becomes super brittle, but you can simulate it with photo etch and it'll like, oh, that looks like, exactly what it's supposed to. But yeah, you're $500 into that. And nobody's going to know what it is. There's a market for, there's a market for almost anything out there. So yeah, I just primed this up because I got to wait a week for the primer to dry. So I just did some dry fitting and knocked it together and primed it up tonight. So.
Wait, why does it take a week to dry?
Because it's what? I always wait. It takes 72 hours, but I just do it. And then I'm going to be working the whole week.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's because it's acrylic. And plus, I'm not done with my B24 yet, so I just wanted to get this done and ready and then work on my B24. Because that's going to, a major assembly on that starts, that's going to be a ball of fun. You got to seam the two sides of the hull together, and hopefully that lines up, because if it doesn't, everyone's going to see it, and it's going to look like shit. Oh, so be with me, God. Model assembly. But yeah, I've never done one with a metal barrel before, and as soon as I put it in and primed it, I was like, I immediately see the truth in this because it looks like a freaking tank gun barrel. Because, you've never had more fun when you try to sand the seams out of a tank barrel, and it's a cylinder, and you don't want any flat spots on it. It's like, okay, go with God. I used to put, like when I did that big Russian tank, what I did with the barrel was I put it in a drill and chucked it up and just ran sandpaper up and down it while I was running the drill. That worked pretty good, except I had to do extra coats of paint on it because it had these weird striations in it. No matter how fine I made the sandpaper, that second coat wasn't covering all those weird like lattice hatches and things that I put in it. So looked like the outside of the barrel was rifled almost. But so that's what I'm doing with that.
I played a new game that was on Xbox Game Pass, which I heard good things about, but I never played it before because I never wanted. I heard it was a short game and it was $40, and I'm like, eh. And it's called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Okay.
This is from Ninja Theory, who you probably won't know who they are, so it doesn't matter.
Japanese, I'm assuming.
No, they're actually British.
Oh, okay.
And this game, it's known for sort of properly simulating schizophrenia, or how they call it. They call it specifically called psychosis in the game description. They worked with a psychologist, doctor, to try to properly convey what schizophrenia is like.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
So it's meant to be played with headphones on, so you can hear different voices like talking to you as you're just walking along.
I remember Anderson Cooper did a schizophrenia sim, and it was pretty weird. But yeah. So anyway, tell me about this.
It takes, you're just like this. It uses Norse mythology, and she is trying to go to hell to apparently, I think, save her boyfriend or somebody.
Okay.
She has a skull and a bag on her hip that breathes occasionally, and then the bag gets sucked into the mouth and eye holes, and that's freaky as shit.
That's a weird image right there. Breathing skull.
And then you have these voices that talk to you, but one of them is narrating, so that's extra weird. It's narrating in third person, but there's also voices like, go that way, no, don't go that way. And there's different male voices, there's female voices, there's all different kinds of voices. Ones that are aimed towards the back of your head, one that kind of aimed towards the front of your head.
Oh, that just sounds weird as shit right there. I don't know, man, I'm hearing voices, but they're coming from different vectors of my skull. Then I got the skull thing breathing on me.
And then you kind of go through this weird underworld, and you have to fight some weird demons, and it's pretty interesting. So they won a BAFTA award for this game.
Oh, okay.
Because the BAFTA now includes video games and stuff like that, or at least considers video game stories in their awards.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of times, in America, video game stories aren't considered for any awards majorly, mostly because video game writers aren't unionized. So
yeah, you won't get in the club then.
Also, when you've oh man, that's being a video game writer seems to be a very, what would you call that?
Unsatisfying.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, the people making the game, they have to make something work.
Yeah.
So they're worried about fighting systems and all this other stuff. They don't care about the story necessarily.
Yeah, they're not into narrative voice and stuff.
If you give them a story, they'll plug it in there, but they're not concerned about story first. They want the game to work because that's what people will be playing. And the amount of, and a lot of games, it's anywhere from 5 to 100 hours.
Yeah.
The amount, you basically have to write a dictionary of story to fit into a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 5,000 hours of writing for 15 minutes of content.
Yeah. And then, of course, everybody, is going to say it sucks because most video game stories suck because that's just how it works.
Yeah, well, they're confined by a system.
Yeah, I mean, and it depends on, some people Like I'd say, fuck, what's his name? Fuck. Oh, his first name's Tim.
What does he do?
He works for Double Fine. Let's look up Double Fine Tim. Tim Schafer. So he's like, I'd say he's a very good writer. He got a lot of experience writing for those old Lucas adventure games.
Okay.
Things like, I don't know if you've heard of Maniac Mansion or Day of the Tentacle. Yeah, they're more like story and character driven.
Right.
And so he focuses on, like, he can do programming. He doesn't say he's great at it, but mostly he's focused on story, and he's like a director. So he's like kind of like, well, let's try to make a game, and they kind of it's better weaved together. Or like the I forget the guy. Ken Schafer, I think that's his name. He did like BioShock. Like I remember when BioShock came out, that was like everybody was like, like this game, plays well enough, but really what people took away from that was like the story and the environments and stuff like that, and all the stuff you could read into it. Like that was a real expertise in like how writing in video games could work very well.
Well imagined, a seemingly plausible world.
Yeah. But yeah, so Hellblade, it's on Game Pass. Pick it up. It's weird.
Check it out.
Experience schizophrenia for yourself. But yeah, because a lot of time it's anything story-wise that depicts like mental health, like or mental disability in some way. Like it's always done like as a plot point. It's like, oh, why did they kill him? Because he's crazy. Here it's more like it's like a simulation to give you an idea like why somebody might seem crazy to you because they literally have voices talking to them.
Why is that guy talking to himself and rocking? Oh yeah, well if I was hearing that shit all day, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I heard there's different kinds of schizophrenia, basically depending on culture.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because like here in America, like schizophrenia kind of has a thing. The way people describe it generally has this thing where it's like it's self-hate, but like directed towards you as a third person in your head.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? Things like that. You're too fat. Things like that. And it's very negative. But like in Eastern cultures, like they have positive voices in their head.
Huh.
It's like, hey, good job there.
That's an interesting spin.
So yeah, it'd be hard to really like nail that down, but that's like that seems fascinating to me that like you could have, because I wonder if like the people with like this almost positive schizophrenia, are they as affected in what you consider normal everyday lives as people with like Western schizophrenia?
Depends on what kind of behavior.
Like are they just as distracting as like is all this positive reformation that gets put in third person in your head, is that just as distracting as negative?
Yeah, if Pikachu's telling you you're doing a good job and you're walking off in front of a school, that's just the voices in your head giving you positive reinforcement for bad things. The only kind of mental illness I've dealt with, I mean, it wasn't my mental illness, of course, I'm perfect, but yeah, there's no problems here. But where the guy was seriously mentally ill was a lot of it was religious stuff.
Yeah,
like a lot of like religious motifs kept coming into it, and it's like God was somebody that was like, the Lord told me this. It's like, and then I found out how much problems he had because I thought he was just messing with me. It's like, yeah, okay, God talks to me all the time too. No, the Lord was the voices in his head.
Yeah,
became God. It's like, well, God said this, so this has power now. It's like, I hate to let you down, man, but that's just you. That's whatever inner monologue you're having with yourself. And I actually like know a guy like that, and it's sort of sad. He seems happy, but he's obviously not functioning on a good level.
it takes more effort to do everyday things.
Yeah, he just quit coming to work, and he was having real problems, and it was like, talk to him, and it's like, well, the Lord has moved this into my life and has said this, which sounds like compelling and like, oh, well, that's part of his belief system, his doctrine. And then you realize, oh, no, that's just mental illness. It's hard to, because people will say those things that aren't dealing with schizophrenia. But then when you've dealt with someone who is, and then other people say this, it's like, oh, the Lord's moving through me. I got to like put on the brakes here for a minute. It's like, wait a minute. Specifically, what is he saying? Like, oh, it's just a feeling. Then I know, okay, I'm not dealing with somebody who actually thinks that God's talking to them, and but it was never like serious stuff like, oh, Jesus told me to kill people. No, it was always like, I made cookies last night because God told me to, and stuff like that. So it was fair. It wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't harmless either, because this guy's life was falling apart, and he had wife and kids, and he's up at 4 a.m, and doesn't know why, and he's standing in the front yard. It's like, oh, okay. And then the medicine they give you that can correct that wrecks you as a person.
Yeah.
You just become like a drone. I go to work, I do this, I come home, I eat supper, it's time for bed. I announce it, then I go to bed, and nothing good about it. We don't understand the brain at all.
No.
And we never will, because God told me we're not.
I was thinking in psychology class that it's the only time we could ever actually like learn things about the brain is when people have like weird traumatic brain injuries that they survive. It's like, what happened to that part of the brain, and what's it do, and how's it connected to everything else? You have to like wait for these weird injuries to figure out what the brain actually does.
Yeah. I like people to get knocked on the head and then speak languages fluently that they're not familiar with normally. It's like, how does that happening? That's something you have to learn, right? But then you have this weird thing where it's like human beings are all connected at kind of a low level. And they can only postulate why that is. But yeah, some people get knocked in the head and they'll wake up speaking another language, unable to speak the language they spoke before they got hit in the head, and their family members are at a loss. Like, why is Dad yelling at me in French? He doesn't even speak French. Well, he does now, for some reason.
And then I was listening to a podcast because they did like 16 hours on Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Okay, somebody really got into that.
Yeah. It was interesting because like at the end they all hated it, and I was like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to hate it at the end, but I guess but they had very valid reasons for it. But like I kind of just like scrubbed through the last two episodes in the movie and just went to all the cool parts. It's like, that's cool, because I remember that part where like Shinji jerks off over a naked Asuka, and I just assumed that was a dream sequence because that was so fucking weird.
Yes, that was a weird one.
And like, oh no, that happens. Like, oh well, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, not what we really wanted. Thanks, Japanese.
And then like they were talking about like how that movie is kind of a fuck you to the people that didn't like the ending of the TV series, but like when you get to the action scenes, they're all like really well animated and fucking cool. So it's like, well, I mean, I guess you get people what they wanted.
Yeah, my whole take on that series from when we talked about it is it's not like as a whole, I would say that it's not good, but it has moments of such high highs.
Yeah.
Like when they reveal like the original angel in the basement, and it's just something nailed to a cross. Oh, this is amazing. This is astounding. I love this interpretation. And
well, I think
I've never seen a Japanese TV show. I mean, Cowboy Bebop was close, where it was, but it was always doing the same thing.
Yeah.
In kind of different. It's like, oh, a boss battle. Okay, every time. But yeah, I've never had a Japanese animation thing that was like wholly satisfying. It's like, oh, there's a lot of cool in this. There's also a lot of stuff that could be cut away or actually formulated.
I would recommend I keep recommending the Ghost in the Shell TV show Standalone Complex. I think you'd like it.
I gotta find out where I can watch.
I don't know where you can watch it, but I do recommend. I think Arise used to be. That's also good, but it kind of like it doesn't require you to watch the other ones because like every iteration of Ghost in the Shell borrows things from the previous one, but they really don't connect to each other at all.
Okay.
Uh,
Some steps.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like here's the same characters, but here's kind of a remix of them, and oh, oh, like the thing that kind of blew my mind is that while listening to that podcast, how they linked all this stuff together because there's a lot of stuff that's like not implied, but if you go through the wiki, you'll find all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it was like okay, here's a vague implication from this. Well, I know like the thing like with Ava Unit 1, like his mom was essentially like she was just absorbed by the unit, and that's why it has a connection to him.
yeah.
So essentially, his mother is Ava Unit 1, and the whole like, they're stored in the womb inside the Avas, and then like it's filled with like LCL, which is essentially blood. It's the amniotic fluid or whatever.
Right.
But I didn't know the other ones. Well, I'm not sure how it works for Ray, but the same thing happens for Asuka. Like that robot, because her mom killed herself, they went and grabbed her body and like put her in that robot for that robot to work with Asuka. So like all these robots are their moms.
Yeah. They're dead mothers. Dead mother in a machine.
But like while listening to podcasts, they're always talking about because there's a lot of Freudian influences on this show.
Yes.
And then it's like, but they kind of talked about matter of factly, and I was like, wait, do they not know that Freud's all bullshit? Like it's only taught in psychology now as like a history lesson. It's like we didn't know anything, so here's the best guesses at that time, but none of this applies. This does not follow forward. None of this actually exists. It was a good attempt at the time.
Kind of like if we taught astronomy from the viewpoint that the Earth is the center of the universe, which we later figured out wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But then later on, they do like. They talk about like they do like debunk it. It's like yeah, Freudian psychology is bullshit. At least for now. I mean, it was because mostly like what he does is like the talking cure. Like you talk to somebody to figure out what's going on in their head because you can't actually know what's going on inside their head. That's what Freud brought to everything. But like how like all these film majors. They go through school, take a psychology class, and then they're just like enraptured with Freudian psychology, and then they use that as like monumental themes in movies and stuff like that, and then they just perpetuate essentially bullshit for entertainment.
Bullshit for art.
Yeah, but that's what we do. But
yeah, everyone does that. It's just art. It's objective, or it's subjective. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, occasionally you'll call somebody that's like talking about like id and ego and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, I know the concept you're going for, but that stuff doesn't like actually apply or exist.
yeah, they're using old language.
But but when you say id and ego, people know what you're talking about.
Well, that was a Forbidden Planet. That was the whole MacGuffin. I think that's why they never remade that movie, because they'd have to find new concepts to introduce. Why Dr. Morbius's subconscious was tearing people apart.
And speaking of psychology, in 1999,
The TV show pilot was ran.
I believe I don't know what came first. I think maybe it came first. Did Analyze This come first?
I don't know.
Because I know they came out, like, similarly came out at the same time, the idea of, like, a mobster having to go see a therapist. And, I think they ended up, like, they didn't cancel each other out. They both existed afterward. I'm spelling Analyze wrong. Yeah, it came out in 99.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Let's see here. When did it come out? Let's see here. You check on when the Sopranos first premiered, and then I'll check on when it came out. That came out March 5th. The movie did for Analyze This. And
January 10th, 1999.
then okay, all right. So Sopranos came out first. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't necessarily like, eat each other's lunch. Maybe it probably helped to Analyze This.
Yeah.
Because they made a sequel to it called Analyze That, which I hear is terrible. So, as most comedy sequels are. And I think I saw Analyze This once, and it was fine.
Yeah, I remember it being serviceable and funny. Can't tell you any lines from it.
I just remember the part where he shoots the pillow. That's it.
Yeah. They were supposed to hit the pillow,
Yeah.
get your finger out, and he just pulls out a gun and starts shooting. Same thing, right?
Feel better. So yeah, Sopranos came out. Now I picked this because I try to think like, all right, what other stuff was going on in '99, and I was like, oh, this seemed like the show out of all the other shows I saw, like at least for premieres maybe, but like maybe also what else was going on. This seemed like the show.
Yeah.
This really kind of put like HBO was always there, but you got HBO to watch like movies. Like you didn't get HBO to watch TV shows, and this felt like the first time like, oh, you gotta get HBO to watch a TV show. And Sex and the City was already going on a long time, so you had Oz, Sex and the City, and Sopranos all going on at the same time.
Yes. Sopranos, I mean, it's a show with a very unusual production cycle. Because what was it on 9 years, but it really felt like 12.
Well, yeah, they like split up the last season into like 2 years.
Yeah, it was something weird.
And it was like 8 episodes a season, and they're like almost a year and a half apart. It was fucking weird. Yeah, I was like watching this, and I was almost wishing like somebody had a perspective of like watching this in a vacuum somehow. Because like you open on like James Gandolfini is just this dorky dad playing with ducks in his pool. He made a fucking bridge for the ducks. And imagine watching this show and not knowing it was about gangsters and stuff. Because there's no way you come into this show and not know what it's about. Like the advertising's like Tony Soprano like beating the shit out of somebody for money, or like shooting somebody. The logo of the show has a gun in it. Like there's no way you don't know this is not about gangsters. But if you watch the show, you look like, when's the first time, like if I was watching this and I didn't know anything about this, when's the first time you know this guy was a gangster? Like it takes to that part where like he hits the guy with the car. Like, oh, he's a gangster.
Yeah, it's
and that
yeah.
Like it's like, oh man, that would have been amazing had I experienced it like that. But
Just came into it blind.
but there's almost no way you could, because I heard like a brilliant idea. They almost did this, but not quite. But like so it's like the Predator, like the movie. And you make a video game out of it. So the best way to make a Predator video game is to not call it Predator. Like you call it like Spec Force Bonanza or something like that, and it just looks like some like, over the top like special forces, like we were gonna shoot up some drug lords down south, and then at some point like in the third mission of the game, like your crew starts getting killed, and then you realize, oh, this is a Predator game. Like that would be the best way to get a Predator game, is the game you don't know what it is.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening until you're in the jungles of Colombia with the cocaine lab, and people start showing up skinned. It's like, oh, this isn't the normal Colombian tactic.
Because there's a game called Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Okay.
And they did come out with a mission. It was like an update to the game where they did put the Predator in the game, and that game is about like fighting drug lords down somewhere. I can't remember where it was. And they put the Predator in the game. It's like that. But they announced it. It's like, hey, the Predator's in the game. Go look out for this mission. It's like, if they didn't announce it, that'd be amazing to happen upon that mission, and all of a sudden you're fighting the Predator.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting twist. But yeah, I remember. Let's see, because when this show came out, I didn't have HBO until like 2000.
Yeah.
So when I think I got DVDs from the library. Watch this when.
Yeah, it would be the way to watch it because there's no streaming services then.
Yeah, and I remember watching this, and I thought, well, it's kind of unique. It's like quirky
Yeah.
because you see all the, eventually you get into the lives of these people, and you get to know the characters very. Most mob shows are movies, where it's like Goodfellas, where it's kind of like preset, like, okay, you know who these guys are, they have some they got to do this and they got to beat people up and fuck women and kill each other. This is like things about them, and you kind of like them.
Yeah.
I forgot how dumb they made them. Like because I mean Tony Soprano's obviously intelligent, but he's more cunning than like insightful.
Yeah.
And Paulie and Christopher, they're idiots.
Yeah, like when Christopher and Big Pussy are like trying to throw that body, and it's like, they're trying to throw it in like a dumpster that's like 20 feet tall. It's like you're not throwing that body more than 3 feet in the air. It just slams against the dumpster. There's no way they're getting that body up there.
Yeah, they kind of seem bumbling. Well, actually, this show was originally, I don't know if it was pitched this way and changed, but it was supposed to be like almost a comedy.
Yeah.
A mob comedy, but then it took a little more serious note in the actual show, but there were still a lot of comedic elements.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, these guys in a lot of ways are bumbling. They're not like elites, like, but they are horrifyingly violent criminals who just like this is the normal flow of their life. It's like, yeah, sometimes you shoot people and sometimes you beat the shit out of people and nobody says anything because nobody wants any problems.
Well, that's sort of the genius of the premise of the show is you now have somebody has a panic attack because he's worried about his kids leaving, but that's maybe not actually what's the core of the problem. And he's like forced to reconcile with what he's actually thinking and how other people would judge him for that when he's not really concerned with that before, but now it's for his health and he has to be cognizant of it.
Right.
And also, like, consider, like, this dates the show where, like, somebody has to say, like, don't tell anybody I'm seeing the psychologist. Like, if the boys know, they'd kill me. Like,
yeah, it has to be handled, like, discreetly.
yeah.
I was trying to think of what are some other standout Well, I mean, this relationship, like, he's got the mob wife, who's played beautifully. But one of the strongest actors in this series was his wife. What's her name?
Eddie Falco.
Yeah, Edie Falco. And then and he got his 2 kids, which are like that because they're just like trying to be normal kids.
Yeah, they have no idea.
Yeah, they don't find. Well, Meadow does, but
yeah, but like only like later on.
Tony Jr. doesn't know, and they it's like there's a lot of domestic situations, overlaid with this like horribly violent criminal underworld. But they do a good job of making a bad guy endearing.
Yeah.
And James Gandolfini is just, is a great actor too.
Yeah.
So.
Kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, because not a great actor. I mean, what did I remember him from? He was like the evil Russian agent in Terminal Velocity.
Yeah.
He did other.
He was like a heavy and like True Romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically just a mob guy in a bunch of other movies, but like the third mob guy.
Yeah. And the
Here.
classic, just big Italian guy with a chain. Like, okay, we get your part. And was that in this too, but also managed to be like someone, oh, this is a guy with problems. You can almost feel sorry for him. Oh, he just shot that guy in the face. Well, he's horribly unfaithful to his wife. And was this the episode? Was this the one where he took his girlfriend to a restaurant and was like, "Oh, this is nice," and then like later on that night, he took his wife?
No, not in the premiere.
Oh,
like I don't think he had a side piece in the premiere yet.
Oh,
So.
I thought that was one of his problems.
Because I think that was like I think that's one of the maybe a genius or maybe miscalculation, um, is like is throughout the series they tried their hardest. Like Tony's not the hero. You're not supposed to like him, but like pretty much through the entire series, like I identify with Tony Soprano. Like you're not supposed to, and they keep trying to basically make him more evil and despicable, but people just loved him anyways because they just like James Gandolfini.
Well, one of the things about Tony Soprano that was interesting, and there was a lot of this in the first episode too, is he sort of had he was like an Archie Bunker character, and he had this set of values, but they were like from the 50s.
Yeah,
Because that's sort of the world of they grew up in out there in Bergen, New Jersey, or wherever this was, and it's like, oh yeah, those people are all stuck in the past, and they don't like gay people, and they don't like minorities, they don't like they're despicable, and it's not just the violence and killing. There are also people that have very, very hateful opinions about people.
well, this is like maybe the funny moment in later seasons and episodes, but not in the first one. But because Tony is going to see a therapist, he is now, considering therapeutic concepts of how to like, how to reconcile with your decision making and what does it mean to be this in a modern time. So a lot of the like he'll like take his dime store psychology novel from Professor Melfi, I think that's her name, I can't remember.
Yeah, Dr. Melfi.
And bring it to the Bada Bing, and like they'll sit there and like consider like modern day things, like what's it mean, it's like how horrible should we be to gay people? It's like, well, it's modern times, so not that horrible, but still
Horrible.
Yeah, horrible. Because I remember there was that like, but then like how everything is fine. I'm kind of thinking later on there was that one mob guy. They found out he was gay, and they basically just killed him, and like they had to like reconcile to themselves. Like, we didn't kill him because he's gay. We killed him because he lied to us, and like the things he did to his wife. He left his wife. He has to die. Really, they killed him because he was gay.
Yeah, they had all these justifications. And the thing was, Tony really liked that guy, but he kept using the wrong metaphors. It's like he took an operation that was totally fucked and turned it around for us. He's a come from behind guy, and everyone's like, and he gets mad. Shut the fuck up.
There's that weird part with Christopher where he's like, I could sell my story to the movies. Like I can act in it, because his girlfriend had some.
Yeah, he was always writing the scripts and misspelling everything.
Yeah,
he couldn't spell loyalty, or he had an I in it or something. Oh.
Yeah, because I think Christopher is probably the one character that gains sympathy over time, because he seems to maybe reconsider everything he's doing is bad.
Yeah.
But still does horrible things. But
yeah, he's still like.
But he's like actually like feels guilt, whereas everybody else doesn't, because they're just a bunch of psychopaths.
Yeah, I mean, essentially these guys are horrible people, and are not. You find out in the series, it's like, oh, they'll screw each other over too if they get a chance.
And I can't. Yeah, and there's that thing where they blow up the restaurant, just so that the uncle doesn't kill somebody in the restaurant.
Yeah, that's the solution.
And I don't think like I've like necessarily like went back and watched the premiere, but like I remember like, oh, this is where all that started, because that whole him being mad about the restaurant blowing up is like a fucking like 6-season story arc. And then don't they have to kill that guy for some reason because he's like trying to take things under his own? I can't even remember, but
well, yeah, there's the guy at the restaurant that owns the restaurant, and they blow his restaurant up, but it's not really because of him.
No.
But it kind of ruins him, and they sort of feel bad for him, and then they try to, like, well, we'll help him along and get him restarted. And there's something with his wife too. His wife was leaving him, but they always try to help this guy out. But it's the most ham-fisted and terrifying ways, and this guy's just psychologically. I think that guy had a happy ending, though. I think
okay.
I don't think they killed him. Now the one guy I remember, and I forget what season this was. It was when guy who played the Liquid Terminator, Robert Patrick,
Yeah.
when he got involved with the mob and they were just like running his businesses bankrupt, and and he was trying to hang himself in the basement because he got all in debt to him at a card game. that showed what horrible people they were. And then what was the one with Meadows' soccer team? Like the coach was leaving. He was like the winning coach for their soccer team, and he wanted to leave quickly, and Meadow told Tony, it's like, well, he was having sex with one of the girls, and he was like, yeah, but you guys are winning. Like, it was so weird morals of, it's like, he wasn't having sex with you, right? No, Dad. Okay, well, you guys are winning. It's just a complete lack of any, like, if it's his family or something, he'll just cut someone's throat. But if it's other people and the horrible things happen to him, it's like, yeah, you got to look at the big picture, where this is going. And he actually talks and behaves the way most people do. It's just because he's in organized crime, it has real implications. It's life or and there was a lot of that in the first, because then they introduced like the Russian mob or something in the first episode, like they were trying to horn in on the garbage business.
I can't remember.
Into this episode, I think.
Yeah, well, Christopher like kills that guy, but yeah, he's like Chechnyan or something. I don't know. Or they're probably Russian, or maybe I'm just pulling that from Barry. I can't remember because I think they're Chechnyan and Barry. There's some foreign guy that he killed because of the possibility that them horning in on their disposal business.
Yeah. Which is really just what do they have that for? It's to launder money, and it's like that's who they work for, and that's why they own all this stuff.
Yeah. Launder
their crime. Because I remember like they had to set Paulie up once, and there's a funny picture of him. He was the recycler of the year for New Jersey. He was holding up the award like it was numbers at a police shoot where they take your picture. So yeah, there's all this whole fake world.
I remember there's one episode where Paulie was like trying to like make everything old school again because he was getting mad because everything was progressing. Like there's cell phones and everything, and he was like doing low level crime. There was like something where like he was getting some meat at a butcher, and like he put something underneath the scale so it would like he could get more meat for less.
Oh yeah, put a magnet under it or something. Yeah.
And then he was like trying to like shake down a local business. Like, yeah, we need protection money. It's like, I work for Starbucks. We already have a security person, and like they just don't understand, and like just out of pure confusion. And modern times, they understand like low-level extortion, old school low-level extortion.
Yeah, there was no neighborhood protection racket for corporate franchise. There is, but it happens at a high level.
In this episode, it was played for humor. Which I kind of like. Yeah, this seems like a. If I were to categorize it, this seems like a show by boomers. It's a boomer show.
Yes. Well, one thing I noticed about this show, because I watched like the first one, and I did this a couple days ago, and then I watched a couple more later ones just to. I mean, this show had the same intro. First day one to the last day.
Woke up this morning, got myself a gun.
Just driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and like nothing changed in this series. I mean, the stories progressed, and they drove newer cars and stuff, but it was remarkably consistent all the way through.
Yeah,
they had Tony had a heart attack type dream sequence stuff, but that was the last year of The Sopranos, which was really weird and schizophrenic. So, but yeah, this show managed to look and feel the same. A lot of the characters made it.
Yeah.
Remember when Big Pussy got whacked? That was like a shocker. It's like, oh, they killed one of the main characters. But that, yeah, it was amazing to me how consistent this show stayed. Like they didn't change a lot. The kids grew up, things happened, but and then what was the other dark? When they killed Christopher's girlfriend.
Yeah.
he basically could have ran with her and got away, but he was at the gas station and he saw how poor people with no skills really live, like with their 3 kids, and he was like, "Oh fuck this! I gotta call Tony," because they were gonna run away, and they just killed his girlfriend, like shot her in the woods, and
But
so that
also, like that, one of my favorite episodes I haven't watched in a long time is that one episode where they have to kill the Russian guy, and like
Yeah.
they shoot him in the head, but then he disappears, and then they're trying to survive in the woods.
Oh yeah, it's like freezing cold, and
Yeah.
they're in the Jersey Devil woods.
And it like happens in like season 4 or something like that, and you're like, oh man, when are they gonna bring this back? And like they just it never comes back. There's no resolution to what happened there. They just never know what happened.
I don't know why they didn't follow up on that.
I don't know. I think it's more interesting just leave it up to yourself, because the dude got shot in the head. He just probably bled to death somewhere, or miraculously found his way back to his mob, and then like they're secretly working behind the scenes. But like we're never gonna get that story.
Yeah, that's too weird. Yeah, this managed to be like rooted in reality, but also strange, which is what was cool about it. 'Cause
Yeah.
you had the mob boss that's got to see a shrink, but it was they never had like who shot JR type stuff.
Was there a scene where like Tony actually admitted that he like saw a psychologist, and then like everybody just like played off like it was no big deal? It's like, yeah, so what?
I think it came out.
Because like he was like worried that like they were going to execute him if they found out he was seeing a shrink. It's like, oh, you're telling schools out of tail. Like we gotta like you're. But then he's like, no, like if I say something illegal in this thing, then like she'll turn me into the authorities. So I never said anything.
Yeah, she wasn't in. He actually stopped seeing her because they got into a fight.
Yeah.
He basically told him like she had a romantic thing for him. And of course, he was like, "Yeah, okay." He's like, "I can't be a part of your world. You're too violent, and I can't witness crime." And he's like, "Fuck you! You're not looking down on me. Think you're better than me?" One of those things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some kind of violent, not violent, but just a falling out. Because this show had one of the weirdest endings to the series ever. We're just in a diner. And Don't Stop Believing is playing. But I think it's because everyone was out of gas at the end of The Sopranos. Because it went from being kind of this quirky mob show to a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And hold that mantle for years. Like it didn't have, the next season sucked and everyone forgot about it. No, it went on right to the end. And of course, I don't think people didn't realize like a lot of their production delays and stuff was because James Gandolfini really liked drugs. Lots and lots of drugs.
I guess I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's why he died.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh, he was fat. He had a heart attack." He's like, well, "Okay, but he actually died because he was using all kinds of drugs." And that was a horrible story because he had a special, like a Rolex. I forget who gave it to him, but it was one of the special ones. It's like nobody has these, and it was like a gift, and he always loved it. And when the Italian paramedics showed up to take him to the hospital, they stole his watch. They found the guy with the watch, and he was trying to play it off like, "No, I had this." It's like, no paramedic in Italy, $1,000 Rolex. That doesn't. Yeah, I know it was a sad end to a guy who was really like a good guy, I guess, in real life. Because I remember once he said, "I'm not coming back to the show unless everyone gets paid at least as much as I do." And they're like, because he was like top, like he was way up here in pay because he became the show.
Yeah.
Later advertisements of The Sopranos, it's always a shot of James Gandolfini looking up or doing
Front and center, and like the other characters in the background. Yeah.
He was the show, and after about season 4, he's like, "These guys are going to get paid as much as me, or I'm just not going to do this." Oh, come now. He's like, "No, I'm serious." He didn't show up for the first day of shooting. He didn't show up for the second day. We're like, "Oh, he might be serious." Because when you just don't show up, everyone there gets paid. They're
Yeah.
like you to be there, and when you're doing stuff like that, it's like, oh boy, we're in trouble.
That's good.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
I imagine because HBO is doing it, it was separate from network. The pay was probably like wildly different. Because I remember it used to be like if you were on a cable show, like you made like almost like 10 times less than what a network person would make. Now I don't know what the fuck it is. Like I think it doesn't matter where it is, you make it the same amount of money.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I hear that network gigs are usually more consistent and a lot of money overtime, or not overtime, but like over the length of the production, you will make a lot more money than you would doing like a 13 episode banger on a AMC or whatever. But essentially, you get paid the same for the same work, but it's kind of the overall length is more expected for a network television show rather than cable.
yeah,
But also actors seem to like that now. It's like if you can shoot 13 episodes of a season, you can still like shoot 3 more movies that year. It's like, oh, let's bank $60 million.
yeah. I don't have enough money. You know how much it costs to feed a white tiger? Oh, speaking of shows upcoming, did you hear about the there's more information about the new Picard show?
What's that?
There's going to be comic books and a novel that will
To
explain
ignore?
basically to explain everything that happened in the years between Nemesis and the Picard show.
Okay. When are these coming out? Are they coming out before the show?
December, I think.
When's the show coming out?
January,
Okay.
I think. I don't know.
Are you going to invest in it, or are you going to wait till you see the first episode and whether you should go back and watch that stuff?
I don't. I mean, I so like that character and that era of Star Trek. I just might. I mean, I might just try to dive in because I so didn't like Discovery, but I weirdly liked the first season of Discovery. But second season, which was actually, I don't know how you'd say. I don't know. I don't like this style of Star Trek, and I think a lot of people don't that they're doing now. Maybe this will be a change of pace, or maybe it'll be more of the same shit. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give it a chance because of because I know Patrick Stewart's involved in it. It's like, okay, these not a bunch of no names.
Well, it seems like they're getting everybody back in.
Yeah.
So apparently Jonathan Frakes and Deanna Troy, I can't remember her actual name, sorry. They'll show up to do a cameo.
Marina Sirtis.
Yeah.
So it should be. Well, you know why Jonathan Frakes just was happy to quit Star Trek, right? Quit acting in it.
Why is that?
He said, "I'd get tired of working out all the time. Uniforms were terrible, and I didn't have a Patrick Stewart body." He'd always joke about how Patrick Stewart was thin as a young man, thin in middle age, and thin as an older man. He goes, "That wasn't me. I got tired of hitting the gym 5 days a week just to fit in that damn uniform." Because he even said, he goes, "I gained 60 pounds over the course of the Next Generation. They just they would cut it differently." Because he's actually closer in age to Patrick Stewart than what you would think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Patrick Stewart has looked 40
Yeah.
since he was 22
Right.
and still looks 40 when he's like 70 something.
He's 79. So yeah, I thought that was funny. It's like, yeah, those uniforms were not. That's what I always liked about the Wrath of Khan era uniforms. It's like Scotty could rock one of those. I don't see Scotty jumping into one of those. But yeah, I don't know.
No height weight standards in the future.
No. They actually had a thing about that in like Star Trek lore about because in that universe you essentially don't have to do anything physical if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Had a problem with people in Starfleet were so sedentary that they actually had what were they? They had food or something they developed so people wouldn't get fat. It was one of those.
Well, isn't there like some throwaway techno babble about like the was the food processor. What are they fucking called?
Replicator.
The replicator, where like it replicates the taste just exactly to what you need. So like it would taste exactly like ice cream, but it only has 15 calories because those 15 calories are placed exactly where you need them to be to taste exactly like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's some weird Star Trek backstory about because you have to do nothing physical. I mean, they just beam your atoms around. You have to walk or operate a vehicle.
I was working on like I wasn't really working up. I thought up an idea for a Star Trek episode, which I probably thought up 100 of them. But I had this one idea where it's like it's one of those episodes where they have to take a shuttle somewhere on a side mission, but like it gets lost along the way and they can't find them. And they start to run out of food because there's nothing to replicate anymore. They don't have any whatever you'd replicate. Some mass of gelatin and you can turn to whatever you want. And like the person wakes up and there's like food in the cabin, and they're like, "What is it?" And then like the guy basically would take the transporter beam and like essentially like used his atoms to put in the food replicator to make food for this other person to live.
Oh, just some dark quasi cannibalism.
Yeah. I think the out I gave it is I think only his leg would be gone and he's like stored in like the buffer for the transporter buffer, and then he put like his leg in the for the replicator or whatever, something like that. But that was the idea for the episode. How to make essentially the Donner Party but for Star Trek.
I've read that book about the Donner Party.
No.
Called The Thoughtless Stars or something. that was a horrifying. Like the people that were responsible for sending the Donner Party out, when and how they did, and the people who sponsored that, they should have all been hung. Virtually guaranteed that something terrible was going to happen. And everyone involved, from the leader of the party to the people that financed the journey, they all knew it's like, oh, these guys are fucked. Because they had no idea what they were getting into, and they knew how bad the weather could be at that time and place, and they still sent them out just out of pure greed.
Well, yeah. What was the end goal, or what were they planning, or what were they out there in the first place?
I think it was basically it's a land settlement, land claiming.
Oh, okay.
So they were basically out there to stake a claim. So because this is right before the gold rush or right after, I'm not sure. But they, I think this was during the California gold rush, and they wanted to claim parts of the Sierra Nevada. But you didn't.
Is that no, it'd be 1849.
Yeah,
because that's why they call them the same. That's why they're called the 49ers, because that's when the gold rush was.
Yes.
Okay.
And these guys were from 1846, though.
Okay. I suppose. Yeah.
There's a lot of side stories with this, and it's kind of a weird. I think it's called The Thoughtless Stars or whatever. It was a Kindle free book, but it was like 700 pages. Like, yeah, I'll read that. I didn't realize how elaborate that story. Like, 'cause the one part you remember is they got snowbound and they had to resort to cannibalism. But it's like the whole thing from the beginning was just one bad idea after another. And when you realize how much greed was, and how much people just fleeced the pioneers. Because everyone was going west, essentially. There was different reasons. There was religion. There was, I want to live this weird lifestyle. I don't want anyone to tell me who I am. But a lot of them were just people fleeing the government, and they were just willing to do what. And also, there was a lot of people, they knew a civil war was coming. They didn't want to be around for that one. So there was a lot of, these were the early people. Because after the Civil War, westward expansion was huge. Like, you didn't hear a lot of these horror stories. Especially once they just switched the army out west. It's like, go kill all the Indians. Oh, okay. Done and done. So, yeah. Yeah, the story of the Donner Party is it's infuriating almost. It's like, oh yeah, people were just doing the same shit they're doing now, only this resulted in cannibalism, death. Now, usually you just lose your life savings. But it was also like basically stealing land too. It's like, well, if you go out there far enough and claim this, we get a percentage of it for like, it was like a 20-year indenture contract. I mean, it's just terrible stuff. But you had to get, those wagons and all those supplies and stuff were really, really expensive.
Yeah.
Preserved food at that time cost 10 times as much as regular food. By preserved, I mean we just put it in a salt jacket.
Yeah.
But that's still canning food at that time was basically a metal tube. You stuffed all the sausage or what in it, and then you sliced that tube up, and then you used, just melted some lead because nothing will rot with lead. Leaded the tins together, and that was that food was very expensive and awful for you too, because you're going to eat fat preserved in salt, sealed by lead. Perfect.
Just have some hardtack. It's basically just water and flour.
Yeah.
And takes forever. It's what they put on ships and shit like that. I saw a video of them making it. It's basically like the same way you'd make a like almost tortillas, but like you're making a very, very, very hard biscuit, and you even less material. It's like, here's salt, water, and flour. Have fun.
Yeah, there's no leavening agents or anything.
No.
It's like a brick if it was made out of flour.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. They also used to use paraffin to seal them, but the problem is if you're going anywhere hot, the paraffin would just melt.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's why go out and hunt those bears and shit, like in the Oregon Trail. Oh no, one of my oxen died. I don't have enough yokes for the oxen. An axle broke.
I'm going to go hunt the most dangerous land predator in North America with a flintlock rifle. And prevail a lot, weirdly enough. Actually, people wouldn't do it if it wasn't. They hunted wolves to extinction almost with weapons like that. So.
Yeah, you get a buffalo. They're slow and dumb.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like. The Revenant. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not.
No.
It's kind of cool because they actually like visualize what combat was like with flintlock guns. And it's like if you carried enough guns with you, you were familiar with them because these guys were all like hunters. That's why they were in the woods. Well, you could fuck some people up. It's just you're not slapping a magazine in and reloading. You're grabbing another gun. And I know some of it was Hollywoodized, but I've never really seen like, oh yeah, you could actually fight with those weapons. And because they're really effective clubs once it's fired. Still coming at you with a tomahawk or something where you just swing that barrel like you're going for the bleachers and you'll kill them. 15-pound gun. And those guys could reload them fairly quickly for what they were. But, that's kind of a cool movie just for that whole world. It's like, oh yeah, America was a dangerous, fucked up place at one time. Got native people that are a lot better than you in the woods, and then huge, deadly land predators that are just floating around. All right. Well, anyway, I think I'm done for this week.
All right.
This week for the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.